It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. It's a new week for us on Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles.
And I'm Alex White. Very excited about our guest this week because we have a loaded week with lots of great people coming to join us.
Steve Jones joins us in a half hour. We'll talk NBA Finals with him. We'll give you the whole lowdown as we go throughout the week. As always, shout outs to our friends at Oasis. Shout out to our friends at Steiner's and Fuego and Henderson as well. Dom's Pizzeria, of course, back in Old Trafford, Pennsylvania. As always, happy to be with you, as always, to begin a new week. The first full week of the month of June. Where is the time gone? It's not too bad, though. Means we're ever so closer to football. All right, flip it across, Sean. I've been waiting a while to say that because Sean and I have not been on the same days. That was about a 2 out of 10 sound from you today. Need to improve on that. All right, let's get to it. Since we were last on, we know the matchup for the Cup. The Edmonton Oilers, and credit to the Oilers. Despite getting outshot by more than 20 shots in Game 6, they find a way. They advance to the Stanley Cup Finals, beating the Dallas Stars. They will meet the Florida Panthers in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals we got a whole bunch of time to break this one down, Alex White. We don't see Game 1 until Saturday. So we have a whole week. The whole week of shows breaks down the Stanley Cup Final. May even work in a surprise Andy McNeil appearance later this week. But here you are, the Panthers. There you go. Game 1, they're minus 135 favorites in the series. Florida right now, the favorite to win the Cup. No shock whatsoever on that one. Currently sitting at minus 130 behind us.
What we all expected, right? Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers, two of the best goalies getting knocked out in the last round with Igor Shesterkin and Ottinger, but I think we should have a fun series. I'm expecting this one to go pretty far, at least 6 or 7. But number 2 in the starting 5 today, great pitching matchup. Today we have Tyler Glasnow, who leads the league in strikeouts at 95. He will be on the mound in Pittsburgh against their young rookie, Jared Jones, who has been very good this year. 70 strikeouts on the year for him. Dodgers, big favorite on the road, minus 180. Total 7.5 over minus 120. If you like Glasnow's strikeouts against Pittsburgh, Jeff, it is 7.5. Juice to the under, though, minus 125.
Glasnow, that's a revenge game, isn't it, technically? It's been a while since he's been a Pirate, but regardless, again, the Dodgers, pretty good at this baseball thing. Not a good baseball news day, by the way. They gave down a lifetime ban to Tucupita Marcano today for betting on baseball games. He only won 4.3% of his bets on baseball. Yikes. A few others were suspended for the rest of the year. Just another sad situation. Similar to the Jonte Porter situation that we saw in the NBA a few months ago. Going to number 3, this was recent, and this is big here. We haven't talked much tennis so far at Roland Garros this year, but Novak Djokovic, an epic 5-setter against Fernando Cerundolo, where Djokovic came from behind, won it in 5 sets. That's it. He's done. He withdrawing, I should say, from the French Open. Carlos Alcaraz, now your betting favorite, already was your betting favorite. Now a shorter betting favorite with Djokovic no longer in the field at plus 120 at most shops that have it available right now.
Always disappointing when you have one of the biggest stars get injured like that and not get to finish it there. But number 4, we have 3 NBA games on the board, all Commissioner Cup games. Very interesting because these just started on June 1st, and we've got about 2 weeks of them, Commissioner Cup games back-to-back. Favorites so far 4-1 in those games. Most intriguing on the board for me, Washington Mystics at Connecticut. Lowest total, if not one of the lowest totals we have seen all year at 153. The Sun are a 13-point favorite in that one.
Sun's still undefeated. The only ones left, 8-0. Man, that would be pretty fun if the 0-8 beat the 8-0 in the Commissioner Cup game, no less. One that means a little bit more. Again, this is the WNBA was the first one. They were before the NBA in the in-season tournament. This is year 4 of it, right? Year 4 of the Commissioner's Cup. I'm gonna have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's year 4 of it right now. And then number 5, getting into the NBA Finals. I got plenty of ways to bet it. Steve Jones joins us in 25 minutes. to break down the Celtics and the Mavericks. Again, so much time in between these series. Florida and Edmonton are going to end up with almost a week off. The NBA, a week off when it's all said and done. Just too much time. Just start the series already. Let's go. Just get it going. We'll have plenty of ways to discuss how to bet it in a few moments from now here on Sports by the Book, and that's your starting five here this morning. By the way, real quick, I just throw this out there. College baseball-wise, the betting favorites going in to the tournament, Arkansas gone over the weekend. At least the betting favorites here at the South Point, I should say. A&M was a favorite at most books.
Yep.
A&M got through. Tennessee got through. Kentucky got through. Georgia got through. North Carolina got through. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the other 6 favorites that made their way through into the Super Regionals this weekend. Of course, there's 8 Super Regionals. Winner of those will go to Omaha with the World Series starting not this week, but the week after.
Best of 3 now in the Super Regionals, and then we will go back to the double elimination once they get to Omaha. But yeah, should be a good one. We do have a guest on sometime this week to talk more college baseball with us.
Yes, that'll actually be perfect. Thursday, be on the lookout for that. Family Matters. That's all we can say on that one in the tease for that. All right, let's get to it in the NBA, Alex. We're still a few days away, and we want to look at some exact results. We want to look at some other props that we haven't really touched on so far, but we can touch on now. Let's start. We talked about this a lot in the conference finals. Let's just start off with these exact results.
Okay.
Here, Boston. These odds from DK, right? On this, or with the Superbook?
The exact are actually here.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. They're here. I didn't even have to do the exact results from here. Boston. You have the sheet in front of you?
I do.
There you go.
Yes.
Alex has the sheet, and it's right below all those all game 1 odds, series price, right on the right side there, as you see. So Boston 7-1 to sweep. The Celtics plus 320 in 5. In 6, 4-1. In 7, plus 375. On the Dallas side, they're 25-1 to sweep. In 5, 12-1. In 6, plus 550. And then in 7, plus 375, Alex White.
I like Boston in this one. I haven't decided how I'm going to play it yet. I may just play the series price at minus 210 and not really mess around with that. But I'm thinking almost Boston in 6, maybe Boston in 5. I do think that the Mavs are playing too well right now, and Luka has just been so dominant that they are going to steal 1 or 2. But ultimately, the Celtics have been the better team all year long, and they just have so many different ways to beat you. I did already make one small prop bet, though, with the price plus 360 on Luka to have a triple-double in the first game. He's had 6 this playoffs, 2 in the last series against Minnesota, so kind of averaging 2 per series. Going to jump in on this first one, see how it goes. If it doesn't hit, maybe come back on the next one as well. But if you watch how they played the first 2 games in the regular season, and I mean, give me your thoughts on this. Well, but to me, it seemed like Celtics almost took the approach of, we are going to lock down everybody else, and Luka's obviously going to get his, but we are going to make it impossible for PJ Washington and Likely and these other guys. So Luka did have a triple-double in both of the regular season games against them as well.
I have absolutely nothing to take from the regular season games with these matchups. That's just the way that I'm going to have to play this. Now, could we see a similar strategy? Of course. Of course. Porzingis looks like he's going to be ready to go for Thursday, by the way. So the benefit of this long layoff gets Porzingis ready to go to begin this series. Of course, Porzingis was just in Dallas before going to Boston. I know he had the pit stop in Washington, but I think everyone wanted to forget about that, even Porzingis. But, you know, it's this whole series, Alex, and we still have time. We still have 3 more shows to break down our thoughts here, and maybe they'll change by Thursday morning. You never know. But this is one of those series where it's a little bit backwards. I think the 2 best players in the series are on Dallas. I think it's Luka's 1, Kyrie's 2, Tatum's 3, Jaylen Brown's 4, Porzingis is 5. And then after that, you can order Derek White. You can throw, actually, I forgot Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's 6. After Drew Holiday, you can order Derek White, the other Boston bench pieces, the auxiliary pieces on Dallas, however you want. But, yeah, even though Dallas has players 1 and 2, Boston pretty clearly has 2 through 6.
Correct.
Or excuse me, 3 through 6 in this series. So I would very much, I think this is a 7-game series. I think this is going the distance. I wouldn't mind taking now, look, this is not the most optimal strategies. You could also just find a book that has exactly 7 games and not bother and see what the price is in comparison to what it would be here at the South Point. Take a piece of both teams, a plus 375 for the series to go 7. Shop around as always to see what other odds are available at other books. But this feels like a distant series. Now, we just had 2 very short series in the conference finals. Boston hasn't played a series longer than 5 all postseason long. So you do have to wonder, all right, will Boston be able to handle a longer series? This is clearly the best team they've played in the postseason so far with all the injuries that have hurt the other teams, no pun intended on that, in this postseason. But I do like Boston in 7. That's the one that I think that's where I think the series goes. I think home court ends up mattering here where the Celtics get that final game at home and take advantage of it.
We've talked a lot about MVPs as well. Is there any MVP bets you like?
So I just want to get the updated odds right now on these MVP markets. Tatum is your betting favorite. You're laying a price at some books at minus 115. This kind of goes back to what we talked about on Saturday a little bit. The bet I think you can make is Kyrie Irving at 22-1. If Dallas wins this series, there is a path for Kyrie to win the MVP. Now, we just saw Jaylen Brown win the Eastern Conference side MVP. By the way, plus 650 on Jaylen Brown to win the Finals MVP. The other Celtics, 35-1 on both Porzingis and Derek White, 50-1 on Holiday. I know there are some Drew Holiday bettors that feel like they should have got there in the Eastern Conference Final MVP markets, but this is one of those where if Boston wins, I have a hard time seeing Tatum not win it unless Brown is just significantly better than him. But I do think there is an avenue for Kyrie Irving to win the Finals MVP if Dallas wins, even if we have a big-time Luka series. Just because of the narrative that's in there, going back to Boston, of course, beating Boston here. Now, if Dallas wins, there's a reason Luka's plus 205 and Kyrie Irving's 22-1. Luka should be the big favorite on Dallas to win MVP if the Mavs win this series. If LeBron didn't win the MVP the year, the first Golden State year where Iguodala won the MVP, no losing players winning the MVP ever again in the finals. So you don't have to worry about that. But I think it's worth a little bit of a sprinkle just because of how big that number is on Kyrie Irving. I would have expected it to come in like 12-1, 10-1. The fact that you're getting in the 20s, I think that's worth a small sprinkle, even though, again, 22-1 shots are not meant to win. We know this.
I know it's Kyrie Irving, and you make a good point about him going back to Boston. So if he does have a big series here, but I just can't see them giving it to anyone else but Luka, especially if he plays the way that he has in the first 3 rounds. So that is, I kind of agree with the books on why it is such a high number.
Well, this could also be like we saw last year, culmination, and more so than anything for Luka, where Jokic, even though he'd already won multiple MVPs, all right, finally won the NBA championship. All right, different level of respect. Luka hasn't won the regular MVP yet. So this would be the same sort of thing in that regard. But we'll see how it all plays out. We got plenty of time still. Too much time before the series has started here in the NBA Finals. All right, you want to go to the W here?
Sure.
We will only be looking at betting related things here. A lot of discourse over the weekend, to put it lightly, with everything that went on. Maybe Ryan McCormick and Frank Nicotero might have something to say about that on Punchlines later today.
I'm sure they do. They do a great job with post on Punchlines, so maybe that'll be in there.
A lot going on. McCormick's hard at work, so he's already up to something over there. All right, 3 games tonight. We already mentioned in the open, winless against undefeated. Sun are 13 at home with a total of 153. That is the lowest total so far of the year in the WNBA. You mentioned that in the starting 5. We saw over the weekend the Sun win a game 69-50 where they just sucked the life out of Atlanta over the weekend. The whole conversation before the year, Alex, was, we're going to get the Vegas-New York rematch. We still very well may. But this is we have to start taking this Connecticut team serious. Now,
Yes.
granted, they haven't played. They have not yet played either New York or Vegas yet. They haven't played those two teams. They get a crack at New York on Saturday this weekend, so we'll talk about that on Saturday's show. But are you taking? How do you take this Sun team now? Is this just, hey, they're clearly, it's still 1-2 with New York and Vegas, then a gap, and then Connecticut, and then there's a gap to everyone else? Or are we putting them on the level of New York and Vegas at this point?
Honestly, the gaps aren't that bad for me right now. It is definitely still Vegas, then New York, then Connecticut. But then I have Minnesota very close right after the Sun.
Off to a great start.
And then Seattle has dropped down a little bit, but then Seattle and Dallas right there. So, and I remember this last year too. It was kind of like a 6-6 with the top two being a pretty big gap between 1-2 and then 3-6. But I mean, they are playing so good. Connecticut, I made them a 15-point favorite. I didn't touch the side in this one though, because I am a little worried that they're going to get too complacent. And I mean, they might take this team that is 0-8 for granted a little bit here. I do still like the total going under. I think that these two match up well for a very slow pace. Connecticut's the slowest pace in the league right now. They're also the worst 3-point shooting team, so settle for a lot more twos. Washington is the lowest offensive rating, averages 74 points a game, second worst shooting percentage from the field at 40.4. What Atlanta is very good offensively, not very good defensively. What we just saw from Connecticut, I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game between these two as well. If you feel like you missed the best number, though, you can always jump in at the first quarter or first half. 39.5 for the first quarter. I like that under. The Sun are 6-2 to the under in the first quarter, and they're 6-2 to the under in the first half as well. So however you want to play it, but I like this as a lower-scoring game.
Even with that 153.
Even with that 153.
Even with the 153. By the way, that total has been smacked. Because there were some early 155s out there that just got bludgeoned down, and there are even 152.5s in the market. It may not be done. So I would honestly just play it the way that you just said. Hey, let's see if we get a higher scoring first quarter, get this thing back to maybe even like 156, 157, and then I would go under on that. The second game on the day the Sky, remember, went to Brooklyn and beat the Liberty. Not 2 weeks ago. Went there, won in Barclays. Now the return trip to Wintrust there in Chicago. Liberty 8.5. Of course, the Sky were in the news with everything that went on in that game against the Fever over the weekend. 165 New York. My 8.5-point favorites on the road here. Again, these are all Commissioner Cup games. These games all go towards the WNBA's version of the in-season tournament.
And they will each play 5 against their conference rivals one time each. But I love the revenge factor here. I love the Liberty. I didn't mess with the point spread though. I laid minus $3 here with the Liberty. Great revenge spot, as you mentioned, and they have been playing way better. Liberty shooting an average of 45.3% from the field, averaging 86 points a game and allowing just 76. The Sky has been better than expected, averaging 79, shooting 42%, and allowing 78. But there's still a big gap between these two. I think that point spread is right, but I would rather just play it on the money line.
Yeah, this is a stay off. I just wonder how a young team like Chicago, where they have just been in the news, not particularly for the best of reasons over the last few days, how do you handle that? How do you handle this? And look, there's been so much discourse. We would need another 6 hours, basically, on this show to go through everything that would happen over the weekend. But I'm just curious how that team handles everything. And if they handle it well, I would not be shocked if they cover the number here. It's a big number at home. You're getting a lot of points, especially when they beat New York less than 2 weeks ago in New York's building. Now, New York had a horrible shooting game that day. Regression to the mean, you would think that New York would shoot a little bit better in this game, but it's a lot of points. A lot of points at 8.5.
Well, it is, and New York's just 2-7 against the spread so far this year. So these big numbers have been tough for them to cover.
What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on the last game? Again, Mercury on the road at the Storm tonight, 7.5. Seattle at home.
I played it on the money line here, minus 320 with Seattle. Again, as I mentioned, I mean, Sunday we saw 4 favorites all cover in these Commissioner Cup games, so they are very important to these teams, and I think the favorites really step up big for them. Didn't want to mess with the spread. I made them 9.5-point favorites. So I put those two together and maybe even with a little baseball money line to come.
I would say you just find those favorites, keep stacking them together, right, Alex? That'd be a fun way.
Well, I don't know, because I've been keeping track. We've got the trends here on our sheet. I mean, there's been a lot of money to be made. Dogs 28, 19, and 1 on the year so far, and home teams just 18, 29, and 1. So,
by the way, did the parlay win on Friday or no? Who blew it up this week, McCormick?
Ryan and I.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just one. Wow, Frank was the only winner?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Frankie Fungo, though, not Frank.
Oh, the same.
No, but Brian and I was tough. I think mine was literally by like a point on my total.
Oh, so it's just one of the, just not your day, more so than anything.
Yeah.
Looking at hockey real quick, Alex, and then we'll get our baseball in before our guy Steve Jones gets to us. So Florida advances. They win in 6. And I got to give the Oilers a lot of credit, because the fact that they were able to hold up in Game 6 on Sunday, where after the first period, they had legitimately no scoring opportunities. They technically one high danger chance the last 2 periods of the game. They had 10 shots on net, and it's still good enough because of what they did early in that game, the 2 quick goals early to get a 2-0 lead. Dallas outplayed them for basically 40 minutes, but only could get one across with Skinner. And credit to Stuart Skinner, who has had a lot of adversity to face this postseason, got benched, gets put back in, and he was great in that series against Dallas. And here they are, the Oilers in the Cup for the first time since the mid-2000s, taking on Florida, who's there for the first time since last year. Back-to-back Eastern Conference championships for Florida, pretty impressive. And here you go, the Panthers here in Game 1 are minus 135, plus 115 on the Oilers side. But I want to look more at the whole macro sense of this, because we got legitimately a whole week of shows before Game 1 starts. Minus 130 on Florida with plus 110 on Edmonton here. We were trying to figure out what the pricing would be with Florida versus Dallas. Neither of us really thought that Edmonton was actually going to win this series against Dallas. I would still lean to Florida. What is that?
Well, that's my Monday headline.
Oh, well, I don't want to spoil. It can't be spoiled because it was already said. Well, you got it right. I didn't even have a headline because I wasn't here last week.
I did.
I can't even read that. All I see is 7 Ks and two walks on that. But Alex, I think minus 130 is a good price on Florida. I really do. I think this Florida team is just so well put together at this point. And they're healthy, they're physical. Now, I thought Edmonton was going to struggle with Dallas's physicality, and they handled it pretty well. I just wonder if a second series like that is going to be too much for Edmonton to handle.
It's really tough. I mean, I agree with you. I think that price is right. I'm going to do my series prices today, but just looking at where I have them power rated, I do think that that's a pretty cheap price. I can't help it, though. I'm hoping that the Oilers win. I'm rooting for them and Canada to get their cup first time in 30 years. And they just seem like they are very dialed in as well. I mean, that Connor McDavid goal was fantastic. So he is fully dialed in as well. It's tough. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on both sides for different reasons. I mean, Florida, like you said, very impressive to get back here 2 years in a row. So that puts some pressure on them. And then Edmonton kind of carrying the weight of Canada there. It's going to come down to the special teams again, I think. I mean, both of these teams have been the best on the power kill. Edmonton, 92.8%, and Florida has allowed just 6 of 51, 88%. So they're the top 2 power kill right now, and that is why they've gotten this far. On the other side, the Oilers have been the best power play team, though. 37% on power play, 19 of 51, compared to Florida's 14 of 60, 23%. You just don't know. I mean, like you said, I thought Dallas was going to be very physical for Edmonton, and last year I thought Vegas and Florida was going to be a very equal physicality matchup, and it was not. I mean, Vegas was a lot more physical than the Panthers. So, of course, they've learned from that experience, and now they are here again. But I don't know. I think this will be a good play at game by game. I do think this will go very far.
7 games wouldn't shock me. 6 games wouldn't shock me. A short series would surprise me. But again, if Bobrovsky gets hot, Florida winning in a short series, I could see. Edmonton winning in a short series would be pretty jarring if that happened. But again, with the high variance of Sergei Bobrovsky,
Right.
anything's in play here. And again, I still would lean to Florida. I just think Florida just so well put together. And losing in the Cup final a year ago, I think, helps as well, kind of knowing what to expect. And they're also so much healthier than they were a year ago. Remember, after the final, we learned that half the roster needed surgery by after that.
Correct.
So, baseball today. Steve Jones, by the way, is going to join us in about 5 minutes from now. So, we mentioned this in the starting 5. High strikeout guys in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, Jerry. See? Yeah. Jerry. I haven't seen Jerry in a while. It's good to see Jerry. Jones against Glasnow. High-end strikeout guys. The 2 highest K per 9 inning guys in baseball right now. Jones and Glasnow. For qualified guys. Skeens would be in there if he had enough innings. 7.5. Dodgers minus 180. If we're looking at strikeout props in this game, Alex White, which would probably be the way that I would look to play this potentially. Glasnow is 7.5 strikeouts juiced over on 7.5. And then Jones is 5.5 flat both sides. I'd much rather have Jones as 5.5 flat over as opposed to Glasnow's just because I'm laying a big price, even though the Pirates are in the bottom 5 of strikeouts.
I was going to say, you have the Pirates lineup compared to the Dodgers lineup here, though. So, I don't know. I would lean towards Glasnow.
Juice on the over?
Are you sure? I saw it.
I have one with juice on the over. Again, shop around.
Okay, yeah.
Shop around. If you can find a flat 7.5 out there, it's a much better bet than having to lay on this one I have in front of me $1.25.
But Tyler Glasnow has been very good on the road as well. I mean, he's gone over that number in 3 of his last 4 road games. So, I mean, there is anybody who could do it. It would definitely be him. But Jerry Jones as well. I don't think that's a bad number there. He's got to get 6 from those Dodgers.
I think over 6 is solid on Jones. And then one other game I want to at least get in here, Alex. As we all expected, the top 2 teams in the American League Central, Seth Lugo has been arguably the best pitcher in the American League so far this year. Goes for Kansas City in Cleveland tonight against the Guards. Tristan McKenzie is your starter for Cleveland. The Guards, the Guards are 39-20. 39-20 for a team that underachiever a year ago, just playing some magnificent baseball. Minus 117 behind us, total 8. Juice to the over here, and we're going to start seeing this as the warmer weather comes through, Alex.
Yep.
These games are going to start going higher than you would have expected. I thought this was going to come a 7.5, maybe, or at least a flat 8. This is a 8 over across the board. This did open 7.5. I actually got as high as 8.5 and came back down. But you're going to start seeing these totals bounce up in baseball just because the weather's starting to stabilize, get warmer across the country. That's
a great reminder. Make sure to do your adjustments for your totals. But I still like this one under. I did go under that 8.5 with these 2 pitching. So Seth Lugo, 1.72 ERA, 66 to 18 strikeout to walk ratio. And then McKenzie's been decent, 3.77 ERA, just a little over 1.38 whip with 54 strikeouts on the year. So I'm expecting a lower scoring game. If you want to do first 5 under, so you don't have to worry about bullpens, I don't mind that either.
Anything else in baseball stand out to you, Alex, today?
I do like the Rays. They are minus 120 on the road in Miami. I think that is a very short price here for Tampa Bay. And I know it is your favorite pitcher, though, right? Luzardo.
Luzardo's good, but I mean it's
your favorite Marlins pitcher, not favorite pitcher.
I like Luzardo. He's got great stuff. We have a lot of these quote unquote rivalry series across leagues here today. The White Sox and the Cubs also do battle at Wrigley. Obaniminaga and Flexen. Cubs are a nice $3 favorite at some books, but it's just a question of what are you getting out of Pepe out here for Tampa going back to that Marlin game. Rays have been a little bit of a disappointment. Fourth place in the American League East, underwater entering the week. Right now, the American League East, the two-horse race, Yankees and Orioles, both right now, I would say pretty clearly the two best teams in the American League. It's just a matter of who gets the 1 seed, who gets the 4 seed, and gets to really sweat it out in the wild card series. Oh, and by the way, they'll get to play each other in a best of 5. Exactly what we want, the two best teams in a 5 game, not a 7 game.
I'm with you, though. It is definitely between those two. I think that they'll end up being the top throughout this long season.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, Steve Jones Jr. will join us next. Few days till the NBA Finals, getting ready for the Mavs and the Celtics. We'll also ask Steve his thoughts on some other prop markets that happen to be out there. Alex and I thought that one price was an interesting one, to say the very least. We'll discuss it next. Steve Jones Jr. with us here on Sports by the Book.
From the South Point studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
and host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go, ah!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. She is Alex White. Shout out to our crew as always. Sean, it's great to see Sean. I haven't seen Sean in a while. Caden's here as well. McCormick's getting you ready for punchlines. Jerry also is here doing Jerry things back there as always. And now joining us. We've had him on a few times now, and we always love bringing him in. You can get him on the tweets at Steve Jones 20. It's our guy, Steve Jones Jr., with us right now. Steve, good morning. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Let's get down to business.
Of course, the show is the Dunker Spot as well, where you can hear Steve's analysis. Steve, let's just look at this. We've already been waiting a few days. We get to wait a few more days before the series starts on Thursday between the Celtics and the Mavericks. Before we get into your picks and such for the series, I just want to start off with Boston, where this run through the postseason, in normal circumstances, a 12-2 run to the finals, it would be like, whoa, this team has just blasted through everyone. This is super impressive. But that's not what the conversation is around them right now. It's like, all right, they did what they were supposed to do against an injured Miami team, a Cleveland team that loses Donovan Mitchell midstream, an Indiana team that loses Tyrese Halliburton midstream. I'm just curious, when you've had a run like this through the Eastern Conference playoffs where you're handling your business, you haven't really been tested, what does it look like when you're facing a team where Dallas is going to test them in every which way on both sides of the basketball?
I think for Boston, it's an unfortunate case where they have been the best team all season long. They obviously 12-2, easy run through the conference finals. Not their fault that some players went down. I think when it comes to the challenge of this series, I don't think they get enough credit. Like there's credit to taking care of business and doing what you're supposed to do and getting rid of the opponents in front of you. And in every one of these series, at least the first two, they lost game 2 at home. So they had to go through a level of adversity. Did they quickly manage? Yes, they did. Now it's going to be, can they respond to a certain challenge? Dallas is going to be hungry. Dallas has gone through those trials and tribulations. How much did that add up for Dallas? Is Boston going to be the fresher team? Is it going to be there? Are they going to play with a lot more confidence, knowing that they have run through a lot of teams? Like, there's different ways to look at it. So I think the problem for Boston is most people see them as having run through an Eastern Conference that was a little depleted, and they feel like the team that still has the same issues, no matter how good they are, no matter how far they've gone in the playoffs. It feels like the same Boston team. Kind of reminds me of like Dirk in Dallas, where it's like, hey, you just got to win one, and then we'll believe in it. So we'll see if they can win and get out of that zone.
Steve, I just want to ask you, how do you think Boston plays defense against Luka here? And I was talking to Jeff about this, but in the regular season, it seemed like they kind of just were like, Luka's going to get his, we are going to lock down everybody else. Had Porzingis on PJ Washington, in these different matchups. Do you think they go with that same strategy, or what are you looking for? How do you think they handle this series?
I think that Boston will stick with that. They have a lot of defensive versatility, a lot of good personnel. So when you're looking at having the likes of Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, they can throw different defenders at Luka. And one thing, as you mentioned, during the regular season, we'll stay at home during those. We're not going to give you double teams, let you score and hurt us with the passing, even though you had some good assist numbers. I anticipate they'll stay at home and not be in rotation and let Luka do damage. I think Kyrie Irving is the one they'll probably try and turn the water off of. He had a rough time against Boston in the regular season. Didn't shoot the ball well, didn't get a lot of playmaking. He's been great in this postseason run, but I think they'll stay at home against Luka. The issue with that is, and it's always a fun theory with Luka to say, hey, we can live with those shots. We saw against Minnesota, you can live with them until he just keeps making them. And so if this is a tight game in the fourth quarter and it's going back and forth, are you still going to be as comfortable leaving Luka one-on-one, especially if you're switching, if he has a size advantage over Drew Holiday and Derek White? That's where I think it gets really interesting.
Steve, just flipping it around here, just looking at Dallas's defense that we saw throughout this postseason. This was a team that I don't think got proper credit for how good they were defensively until we saw what they did to Oklahoma City and then exactly what they did to Minnesota. Minnesota had no idea, A, how to defend them, but B, how to get their offense effective against that defense. And I'm just curious because, look, I know that Boston isn't the exact same build as Minnesota, but their best players obviously are their wing guys, and Boston and Dallas was able to really make Anthony Edwards struggle in that series against them. I'm just curious your thoughts on what, if that's a similar game plan that we saw against Minnesota that Dallas should use against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Well, I think it kind of ties into just the buildup for Dallas in this playoffs and this postseason. I think Jason Kidd, after they beat Minnesota, said every series has helped prepare us for the next series. And so I think you would expect to see a lot of the same. They took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's drives away by showing help and rotating and taking away the paint and forcing him to kick out for threes. They did the same thing with Anthony Edwards. I would anticipate they do the same thing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think the big key is, one, can Luka and Kyrie hold up when they switch and they're able to show the same help? The second part is Boston is a different team as far as they are willing to take those threes. So if it's a little bit different as far as we drive, we kick, we'll shoot these threes. If Boston knocks those down, does that take away Dallas's confidence to help on those drives? Or, there's a flip side. Does Dallas's ability to show that help, do they cut off the paint? Do they get Boston late in the shot clock? Does Boston look like Oklahoma City where all they're doing is driving and kicking? Like, that's one of those interesting battles. But I think we'll see the same mindset from Dallas defensively. It's just going to be on Boston to make them pay for it.
Steve, I'm going to start out with some exact results here and give you some prices and see what you like the most. So we'll start with Boston. Boston in 4, 7-1. Boston in 5 plus 320. Boston in 6, 4-1. Boston in 7 plus 375. Dallas in 4 is 25-1. So if they get the sweep, Dallas in 5, 12-1. 6 plus 550, or Dallas in 7 is plus 375.
I'd probably go Dallas in 6. I think obviously Dallas has won one game on the road in each series to start off. I just imagine a world where they could get one, and now we end it at home. So that would probably be the one for me in my head.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting to look at this series because you've mentioned it too, Steve, where Boston has had, if they've had their weird things in this postseason, it's actually come at home. Both their losses in this postseason are game twos in those first two series where their defense just took the night off and the other team made a ton of threes. Is the exact same blueprint for Miami and Cleveland in those games. And look, this is one of those series where Dallas, they had the weird outings in game fours in the first two series against the Clippers and the Thunder, but they handled their business with relative ease. Oh, and also game four against Minnesota, but they've handled their business pretty well in those closeout spots, as we know historically speaking with Kyrie Irving. But it really just does feel like that if Boston takes one of these games off, that Dallas in 6 feels like a pretty good bet, like you just said.
Ooh, I did a good job. Woo.
Yeah.
But on that note, Steve, I want to ask you, because those two series were very similar in regards to Minnesota could have won a few of those games, but the Mavs better in clutch time. Same side with the Pacers. I mean, the Pacers should have won at least 2 of those games, but then we saw Jaylen Brown really step up. And Tatum, do you just trust Kyrie and Luka a little bit more when it comes down to the end and those final crucial minutes?
As of right now, I trust Dallas in the clutch a little bit more than Boston. That's kind of been, not to say they're bugaboo, but that's where some of their worst qualities tend to come out. Not that they say they can't do it, but that's when they start to play slower and they start to feed into the defense. And if Dallas is playing this high-level defense, do you want to play that slow? And if Dallas has gone through some of these battles, do you want to handle that? Now, there could be very well the fact that Boston never lets it get close, and we don't have to deal with that scenario, but the way it's been set up based on everything we've seen, having Luka and Kyrie understanding what they need to do in those late moments gives a little bit of a different feel as opposed to Boston, who's been challenged, but it hasn't necessarily been that. I think the Indiana series was really key, though, as far as showing that resiliency and understanding how we can get back into games. I just don't know if you can give the same wiggle room to those two.
Just to go to the coaching end of this real quick, Steve, we've touched on it a little bit in this conversation, but we are dealing with 2 guys who haven't been there as head coaches before. Obviously, Kidd has played in the finals plenty of times as a player and won one with these Mavs back in 2011. But just for the first time being in this circumstance as the head man, just how do you think these coaches will handle the spot here, especially on Missoula's side, where you've mentioned it, Boston's been the best team all year. They're supposed to win this series.
I think both coaches will do well. I think they'll represent themselves pretty well. Jason Kidd has spoken about how important it has been for the group to buy in. He's gotten that buy-in. They've been focused on the goal, working to get better. We've seen the defense improve throughout the whole playoffs, so he's got them locked in. I think Joe Mazzulla doesn't get enough credit for what he's done as a coach to integrate all these pieces in for Boston. To execute with them, to buy in offensively, the things they can do defensively, as far as putting bigs on different people, as far as using Drew Holiday and Derek White in their ball pressure, mixing in zone. So I think they will do well in the moment. It will be interesting to see who blinks first, as far as who thinks, okay, what we're doing is not working. Because in the playoffs, both of them have really stuck to their principles, stuck to what they do well, and used that to have success.
That's a good point. Chris Andrews, our sportsbook director here at the South Point, just brought us in a fresh new sheet. So we added hockey where we can match the winner of hockey with the winner of NBA. So we want your take. I don't know how much you follow the NHL, but this will be fun. Just bear with us. So Mavericks and Oilers are 5-1. Mavs and Panthers 4-1. And then do I need to give you the other 2 with the Celtics, or are you sticking with Dallas on this?
Give me the other 2.
Okay, so Celtics and Oilers it's just 2-1, and Celtics and Panthers plus 155. So that is the betting favorite there with those 2.
I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna go Oilers Dallas.
Oilers Dallas 5-1. That's the best odds on the board too.
Hey, the Oilers, based on my very quick research, hey, they are not supposed to be here. They could have lost a lot of times for this series.
No, hey, look. I think in that circumstance, going with your gut is the right play there, Steve. Well, actually, you know what? But before we end the show, I'll give my thoughts on that because there was one number that seems pretty interesting there. I'll save that as a tease for a little later in the show. Steve, I do want to ask you about the MVP odds here for this series. Jason Tatum is the favorite. It's just a matter of where you're betting it. He's minus 115 to minus 130 pocket. Luka's in that 2-1 range. Jaylen Brown's in that 6-1 range. And then Kyrie Irving's sitting there in that 20-1 range. I was making the case earlier in the show that, hey, you think Dallas is going to win the series? Yeah, Luka's probably going to win the MVP, but there's a path for Kyrie Irving at 20-1, 22-1 to win the MVP. Do you agree with me on that, or is this so locked in that if Dallas wins, that this is going to be the culmination? All right, he wins the Finals MVP before he wins a regular season MVP.
There is a path for Kyrie. The only problem is what Luka does is so loud.
Yeah.
And you see it consistently throughout the game that it's hard to ignore it. Like, Kyrie's been great this whole playoff run. So there is a world where Kyrie could maybe win them 2-3 games, continue to score. Maybe Luka's shooting is off, triple double, something like that. And Kyrie's able to do it. It's just would everyone be convinced to vote for Kyrie is my only concern there. Like, I probably would point to, there might be a stronger world where Jaylen Brown could get it over Tatum than Kyrie over Luka. But there's a path. If he gets buckets and it's undeniable, it could happen.
It's interesting because I didn't even think about that, but you are right, where obviously this has been an interesting road, to put it lightly, with Kyrie Irving through his entire career. Of course, I was looking of the angle of, hey, if they beat Boston and Kyrie's the best player in the series, maybe that narrative is working for him. But I think the point that you made, and this is something, at least for bettors, you have to at least keep this in mind. What Luka does is loud is a perfect description, Steve, because he could have 3 triple doubles in this series. And if Dallas wins the series and Luka has 3 triple doubles, forget it. Luka's going to run away and might even be unanimous. Well, would be unanimous in that circumstance. So I think that is something to keep in mind with betting this series, betting any sort of props or awards, where a guy, Luka Doncic, like that, it is a loud 35, 10, and 12. There's no such thing as that quiet 20, 10, and 10 that could pop up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But hey, Kyrie gets a few game winners. You never know. Yeah. You never know.
Hey, look, he almost stole it away from LeBron with that Game 7 3-pointer against Golden State when they beat the 73 Warriors. That was actually a conversation, as crazy as that may seem on that. Steve, before we let you go, just anything else in this series that you're looking for that stands out to you that say, people are missing this that we need to be looking for in this series?
Probably how good, important Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis could be in this series to mix up things against Dallas. We talked about how they've been defending and rotating. Those are 2 bigs who can shoot the ball. Does that alter things? And for Dallas, are they going to be in a scenario where Boston is going to live with Luka and Kyrie shooting, and now they can't get anyone else going? Those are probably the 2 things that jump out in my mind. I think both teams have passed the victory. It's just going to be who gets it done.
Speaking of bigs, that is the number that really jumped out to me, Steve. And Jason Tatum is the favorite, which I do understand. But, I mean, you have to lay a price here to have the most rebounds in this series. Is there anybody else that jumped out to you that you think could have more rebounds than Jason Tatum?
You know, the funny part is I immediately thought Luka. I won't even lie there. because of the triple doubles, I was like, okay, maybe right. Luka, and then I was thinking maybe like a Derek Lively, but he would take a lot of offensive rebounds for him to get there. So I'd probably go Luka or a big. Maybe Porzingis comes back like a wrecking ball. I don't know.
Right now, Lively 10-1, Kristaps 16-1. Could I interest you in Daniel Gafford at 30-1, Steve? I mean, that's the only other one other than those favorites. Luka's plus 160. Tatum is minus 115 right now in that market.
You can interest me in Daniel Gafford.
Yeah,
that guy works hard.
Yeah, I think that price is pretty good, actually, at 30-1. Of course, Steve Jones Jr., everyone. Steve Jones 20 on Twitter. The Dunker Spot is the show, available now. You had an episode that came out earlier today previewing the finals, so be on the lookout for that as well. Steve, pleasure as always. Thanks for hanging with us this morning.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
Jones Jr., everyone. All right.
I forgot to ask him about the W, so now he has to come on
we'll
our show again. Talk about WNBA.
We'll have to bring him back. We'll have to bring him back. I want to see that prop that Chris Andrews brought in midstream here. We now have the exact result of both the NBA and the NHL final here available here at the South Point. Mavs and Oilers are 5-1. Mavs and Panthers are 4-1. Celtics and Oilers are 2-1, and the Panthers and the Celtics are plus 155. I misheard you. I thought the number was bigger on the Celtics and the Panthers. I still think that would probably be the way I would play it. Yes, eating chalk, love it. We know it. But I just think when it's all said and done, I do think the chalk prevails in both of these series. I do think, though, the more likely upset is what Steve said. It is on the NBA side. The more likely upset is Dallas over Boston, then Edmonton over Florida. That 4-1 on Dallas and Florida is a little bit enticing, though. I can't lie on that, Alex.
See, I do understand. I think there's a path for both dogs in the upset here. So I don't know. I would probably look at
You'd look 5-1 on the other one?
5-1 is not bad to have them both with the upset here, but I'm leaning more. I like Celtics a lot in this series, so that one I would have set. I would look at somebody to match up with them, which, as you mentioned, plus 155, not bad for all chalk there, but 2-1. I would be looking at the Panther-related ones. That would be the ones that I would look at. Again, I do like, again, you have to, when you think about this, you have to just think about which favorite do I like more? Right.
Who do you think is more likely to pull an upset? And I really do think Dallas is more, they're both dogs are alive. You're in the final. It's not like last year in the NBA where it would have taken a lot for Miami to upset Denver in a 1-8 final. Even last year in the Stanley Cup final, once that we got to that matchup, I know that the market didn't necessarily say it, but I really thought Vegas should have been a bigger favorite in that final than they were a year ago.
That's funny. I was just going to bring that up. I was going to say the Boston Celtics are minus 210 to win the series compared to Florida, who is minus 130. I mean, if you like the Oilers to win that, you're getting plus 110. That's a very, very tight, close line between those two.
Be fascinating to see over the next few days. Again, we'll have time to see how that market moves. We'll see it. We'll have some time. Again, we have 2 days before the NBA starts and the NHL starts. It is a fun time of year as always. Baseball's going, the W's going, and we will have to have Steve back to talk some W during the summer here, Alex. Where again, 3 games on the docket today, and you have plays on multiple games in the W. Just to remind the folks at home there.
I like the under in the first game. If you don't love that we missed the best of the number because there was 154.5 out there, I went under 153.5. You can jump in on the first half or wait for in-game, but that is between the Washington Mystics and Connecticut. I like New York Liberty on the money line, and I like Seattle Storm on the money line.
Favorites on the money line today for Alex White. I have nothing across the board. The only thing I would consider is that Jared Jones strikeout prop. I would consider over 5.5 there. Make sure you get the right price if you're going to do that. The only other thing I will bring up, the Yankees are playing the Twins today. We know the Yankees own the Twins. See, even Sean knows it. The Yankees, again, it's hard to do this because it's a large sample size and the team play changes year to year. But the Yankees have played 800 ball against the Twins now for the last decade plus. And they already won a series in Minneapolis, swept a series in Minneapolis earlier this season. Luis Gil, who has been spectacular, goes for the Yankees today. If you can, market's playing it a little bit interestingly here today. Open minus 160, got as high as minus 180. Now coming back down the ladder a little bit. If it comes all the way back down the ladder, I think that is worth a shot at minus 160 on the Yankees. Now they are coming off a long West Coast road trip. Yep. They did have a day off yesterday. They went San Diego, Anaheim, San Francisco, so it was a long trip out on the West Coast, but they just own this Twins team. And they match up very well with them, and Gil has been awesome so far this year for the Bronx Bombers.
Yes, he really has. I would probably look at that first 5, if anything. 1.99 ERA, 79 to 31 strikeout to walk ratio for Gil here on the mound. So maybe if their bats are a little slow coming off that road trip, take them in the first 5.
Right now, Yankees better price for the full game on the Yankees right now, minus 165.
That's fine.
Full game minus 170 for the first 5. All right, we are back tomorrow. Danny Burke is here with us in his usual Wednesday spot. Kenny White will join us on Thursday. Friday, we'll have Dwayne Colucci. More effort, guys. And then we'll have Vegas Matty will be in studio on Friday as well. So we have a full buffet of great guests this week. Of course, Steve Jones was awesome. We had earlier in the show. Ryan McCormick with Frank Nicotero on Punchlines at noon. We can put Ryan's smiling face up there, Sean. We can all see him there. Look at him. Look how happy he is. You also get a shot of Jerry as well. Look at that. Hi, Jerry. What do you got, Ryan? What's on Punchlines today?
Well, Matt and Everett is not feeling so good today, so it's just going to be Frank and I on our show today. But we got some good stuff going on. We got a Top 5 Tuesday, a segment that we debuted last week, and some more fun posts with Punchlines, as you mentioned earlier in this show, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark stuff. So tune in at 12 for Frank and I.
You see, it's going around right now. It was a game time decision for me this morning. Stay healthy, Alex.
Yeah, everyone stay away from me.
But we got through here today. So Ryan and Frank Nicotero, a funny man himself, at noon. We'll see you again tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Alex White, Jeff Parles, Sean, Caden. Look, Caden's looking great there in the corner as always. Jerry's here as well. Our crew. We wouldn't be here without our crew, Alex. We know that. Our crew, the blood, sweat, and tears they put out on a daily basis, always great. We will see you again tomorrow. We're looking forward to it already on Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.